John.
Yes, Patrick.
There's been in the news the past few months via some stories from Kotaku and otherwise about
Riot Games.
About there's been a push to potentially unionize video game dev workers at AAA studios like EA and others. Whether or not it gets off the ground, we'll see. But there's been movement, Ian, recently.
Sure, there has been. Although so Riot Games, 150 employees walked out yesterday to protest forced arbitration and sexist culture. This is not so much about unionization, although unionization would be a preferable outcome of this. But basically, 5 months after Kotaku did an expose on the culture of like sexual harassment at Riot Games, there's still people in power. The two of the main people who were called out, one had a 2-month leave and the other one didn't. They're still working there. So employees are feeling upset.
Who was called out? Was like the president or CEO?
The COO and the other one, I'm not...
Okay.
I can't remember.
Let me find the original article.
So 150 people walked out to kind of end this to try to end this forced arbitration. What happened was 5 lawsuits were brought.
Okay, that article is from August last year, Inside the Culture of Sexism at Riot Games,
yes,
by Cecilia D'Anastasio. This won an award, by the way.
Yeah. So multiple lawsuits were brought against Riot.
Okay.
Riot has filed to block 2 of those lawsuits.
Okay.
Based on and force them into arbitration. So the cases won't go in front of a jury. Is essentially what'll happen. And
are these class action suits or just individual suits?
They're individual suits.
Okay.
They're individual suits. And 2 of them will not go in front of a jury, at least as of right now. That's what they're trying to stop. So 150 employees walked out in protest. Riot has said, I believe as of last week when they were started to hear about this walkout, that they would give all new employees a chance to opt out of arbitration.
Okay.
To opt out of forced arbitration. But that does not extend back to older employees, at least right now. They said they will look into it. And it will not count for anything that's currently... It won't count towards any current litigation. So anything that's currently in the courts will not... Those people will not be... they still have to deal with the forced arbitration.
So the forced arbitration is, I guess, when you're hired as a contractor or a salaried employee, you sign something saying that you can't bring a lawsuit directly against you. It has to go to a third party to decide.
Correct.
So then your hands are more tied as an individual at that point. It also prevents potentially a class action lawsuit. That's pretty much from a business perspective. Yeah, it sort of limits your liability, but then obviously the workers have less power.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
It doesn't look particularly great either. Google actually had a similar thing a few months back, I believe. It was like 20,000 walked out. It was something insane. And Google did respond to it. They ended forced arbitration, but only for sexual harassment lawsuits.
Okay.
Now, that's a start, and that's where the forced arbitration is coming into play here, is for sexual harassment lawsuits. I'm not a fan of forced arbitration in any way, shape, or means, but I do think, especially for sexual harassment, it severely limits the employee's ability to fight it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been involved with any sort of arbitration. I don't know how the third party gets involved or, who's chosen. I have no idea how this works. If it's internal, obviously that's trouble. If it's someone that the company hires to do the arbitration, I have no idea. It just sounds, again, it's to protect the company, but yeah, it just sounds weird to have this set up to even have that in place in an agreement. I don't think I've ever worked for a company where that was a thing.
To me, it sounds slimy. It sounds like we know there's going to be problems, or this is a workforce that has these sorts of issues, and we don't want to have to deal with this. So they're looking for the easier way out preemptively to avoid these issues. So
this is from the article. It says today's protests appear to be the first Don't call me during my podcast. That was a random number. Today's protest appears to be the first labor-related walkout for a large game studio like Riot. The company's management is allowing its employees to participate. That's interesting. And has urged managers to be accommodating and understanding. In an email to Kotaku this morning, a Riot representative added, "We respect rioters." That's what they call their employees. That's funny. "We respect rioters who choose to walk out today."
I hate pet names for fucking employees or fans. YouTubers that give their fucking fans names. All that shit.
We never came up with one. "We respect rioters who choose to walk out today and will not tolerate retaliation of any kind as a result of participating." So they're like, we're on board with this, at least in some capacity. That's interesting.
It also worries me, if they're okay with it, then what's the strength of doing it other than the show of solidarity?
Well, it shows that the employees are like, we're fed up. We think this is bullshit, but maybe now they're starting to come around. So they're on the same page, at least a little bit.
I hope so. I just hope that to me, there's also a way that could mean they don't care.
So 5 current and 4 employees sued the company in part for violating California's Equal Pay Act. Last week, Riot filed a motion to force 2 of those employees in arbitration. Okay. So the one you referenced, Google, was 20,000 Google employees. What that? Holy shit!
20, yeah, I thought my number was wrong.
What the hell?
You just confirmed it.
That's a mob in a stadium. That's a football match in England. Holy shit!
That's a sporting crowd.
20,000. I can't imagine working in a company that has that many people in one building. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't miss the corporate world. Obviously, not at all. So yeah, like you said, new employees can opt out of forced arbitration for harassment suits, and will consider extending that to current employees as soon as current litigation is resolved. So it sounds like at least this is coming to an amicable end, which is good.
I hope. I guess maybe I don't have any faith in these companies to actually respond to this shit anymore.
Well, they are, though.
Yeah. Well,
because they know it's bad PR, and plus you want to keep employees happy.
Yeah.
And you want to do the right thing. I mean, we're at a point where more and more, this isn't like the 70s or 80s where you can get away with blatant sexual harassment and blatant discrimination. But these are safeguards, at least. If you get rid of the forced arbitration, where now the company's really they can really be threatened. And that's really what I talk about when we talk about discrimination, is that the reason the discrimination doesn't happen as much is because these safeguards are in place. You can sue. And companies, at least the companies I worked at, are deathly afraid of doing anything even that could be slightly looking discriminatory. I mean, when you interview someone, you had to be. I interviewed people. Like I was involved with hiring people. You have to be so careful about what you say, over the top careful about things you say. You are trained that you cannot ask certain questions. You cannot even ask, "What are your hobbies?" You're not even allowed to do that.
Oh yeah.
You know, like to that point where you don't want to give a potential person any potential ammo to say, "Well, this is why you didn't hire me." So. It sounds like in some of these video game companies, they're a little bit behind the curve, maybe still for some reason, and some companies in general probably are. But a good company has this stuff squared away with a good HR, where they're like, you can't do this shit because we don't want to be sued. That's the protection, So, and there's obviously this speaks to a larger talk about unionization potentially in the video game industry. I mean, even haven't tackled that head on. It's a pretty complicated subject, and that might vary from company to company how that will work in terms of a union for the entire industry. I don't potentially seeing that happen. It might be something that happens company to company with they work something out. I don't know. I don't know if you ever see EA having unionization in a company. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. But this is positive at least.
It's a start. I just hope it will affect older employees and not just new employees.
Should I know what Riot Games does? What do they do?
League of Legends.
League of Legends. That's their main one.
Yes.
Why did I forget that? I don't know. I'm a big LOL fan. You know that.
Yeah. Well, we're also the MOBA podcast.
We're the official MOBA podcast as well.
So as of 9 p.m. last night, there was an announcement saying that if Riot management doesn't make any sort of commitment on forced arbitration by May 16th, which is the next Riot Unplugged meeting. So Riot Unplugged is their internal. It's their internal.
For all the rioters.
Yes. It's the internal employee meeting. They will, the other people behind the walkout will take further action.
Gotcha.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They also say that there's still an ongoing concern for retaliation, even though Riot says not to. We might face unforeseen consequences despite leadership's own commitments, because leadership is one entity and there are a lot of people at Riot.
Yeah, but now there's all these eyeballs on this. You know, they can't. They'd be stupid. It'd be suicide to have punitive action against any of these employees.
Well, I think they mean. I think they more mean just from like interwork relationships and stuff like that.
Oh, well, that's a tougher issue, isn't it? Because there's always different personality clashes and things like that get involved in inner. I fucking hate inner office politics. I could have a weekly topic almost on that would happen at my job with shit like that. It was awful. Or people people are bad. People are awful in general, and they'll backstab and they have big egos. We have big egos, and we like to take credit for things we don't do. And
big eagles.
I wish I had a big eagle. But anyway, so yeah, working in a corporate structure is challenging for lots of different reasons. It's not like a TV show, you know. Everyone's like, oh, everyone's happy towards each other. We're all in the same team. It's like, no, that's not. People have their own shit going on in their head and in their lives that comes into the office. And I like doing a podcast. I get around myself. It's better than working my old job. You saw how my old job affected me.
Yes, I did.
I was gray, as you said. I looked gray.
You did. Said. You had no color in your face.
I had no color in Pat's chubby German dimple-filled cheeks.
It was like watching you on an old TV. You were fuzzy, too.
1982
You were fading away, yeah.
UHF, the signal was coming in the rabbit ears?
Your signal was not strong, my friend.